Paul, over to West Ham. They still had another week without a win, just the one win in the Premier League so far. They've got Ipswich Town on the weekend. If they don't get all 3 points, what do you think happens in this international break with Lopetegui and the staff at West Ham?
Listen, it's always harsh, isn't it, when you talk about managers and the jobs. He's not had Fulkrug fully fit since the start of the season. They've spent a lot of money. They've got a lot of new players there. If you're going to bring a manager of his quality in and you're going to entrust him to buy a certain amount of players that is there to make your football club and your football team better, 2.5 months later you don't decide that he's the wrong manager and you don't want him to manage those players unless there's something fundamentally wrong. We saw the issue with him and Kudus on the pitch. Whether that's an issue that's been bubbling away in the background or not, we don't know. You would think that in the modern day that would be put to bed and they would both move on and that wouldn't be an issue. But actually, listen, I don't think West Ham have got started yet this season. I was looking forward to watching them. So the new manager coming in, a raft of new players coming in, and it just hasn't clicked yet for West Ham. But I don't think after 2.5 months of employing a manager that you thought was right and you thought that it was right to give him the amount of money he has to spend on those players. Look at those attacking players that they've got in the final third of the field. It's got to click for them at some point. Whether Antonio's still there or not come January, whether he moves on when Fulkrug gets fully fit and he gets his opportunity there, that's an area they might look at. But when you look at Kudus, you look at Bowen, you look at the Paqueta, you look at the quality that they've got in there, Somerville who they got from Leeds, they've got a lot of good players. It's surely got to be a matter of time for West Ham, and I can't see anything other than them beating Ipswich this weekend.
And Pete, you heard Paul mention Mikel Antonio, whether he might leave in January or at the end of the season. They obviously were looking into signing a second striker this summer, even after bringing in Fulkrug. They're now linked with Omar Marmoush of Frankfurt and Hugo Duro of Sevilla. Could you see them really going after someone in January and just almost panic buying because they feel like they need the help in attack?
Yeah, I don't think they'll want to panic buy. Obviously, Tim Steiden, the sporting director there, is coming under a bit of pressure himself with some of these summer signings not really hitting the ground running just yet at the London Stadium. It's an area of the team that they were looking to strengthen in. They were looking to bring in another forward as well as Fulkrug. A lot will depend on what happens with Mikel Antonio and Danny Ings, both coming to the end of their contracts at West Ham, and the January transfer window will represent the last chance that West Ham have to cash in on both of those players as well. But whether both of those players want to move in January is open to debate, and they might just want to see out their contracts and then explore their options as free agents next summer when they'll probably have more opportunities to move and get better deals elsewhere. But yeah, ambitious targets that West Ham have got. Marmoush is a very highly rated striker in the German Bundesliga. I think he's top scorer right now at Frankfurt as well. He almost joined Nottingham Forest in the summer before he had a rethink on that move and didn't really fancy it. Whether he'd fancy West Ham, we'd have to wait and see if that was to be the case. But yeah, I think for West Ham right now, I think they've got enough in that side to ensure an upturn in fortunes. And obviously, I think they were the 6th highest net spend in the summer transfer window, so they might have to cut their cloth in January. And I think maybe only potentially they could bring in players if players were to leave.
And Paul, you mentioned the Kudus and Lopetegui clash on the weekend. Was this a sign of Lopetegui losing the dressing room, or more of just players don't like to come off the pitch and Kudus just showing his frustration?
Yeah, listen, but you can't say one player coming off when he's substituted at a frustrating time in the game where he feels he still had something to give. Players do that. We've seen it so many times before. It's hard not to. Players have got to keep the counsel. You know, the manager's made a decision, you respect that. That's what the manager's been put in charge for. As much as you don't agree with it, as much as you disagree with it, you talk to him behind the closed doors, you talk to him in the dressing room. A public show like that it's not the done thing. I don't think that shows that he's lost the dressing room at all. I think that's just one player's sheer frustration at being brought off, maybe even frustration with himself for the way that he was playing, his performance, or the way that his team was playing, or the way that things have been going. There could be many benefiting factors, contributing factors as to why that happened. I don't see that as Lopetegui losing the dressing room. Ask me that after the weekend when I see the Ipswich result, then I'll tell you a better answer.